AEW Revolution 2024. Probably one of the most, I would say, emotional pay-per-views AEW's put on. You know, going into this show, I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it. I knew that it was the first pay-per-view in a long time where they were missing a lot of their key players. There was no Adam Cole on this show, no MJF, no Kenny Omega. A lot of the guys who kind of shaped AEW weren't on this show. The Young Bucks were. They were the EVPs that were on the show, and they had a very different role than usual. But Revolution, you know, it was a good show, and it really, what I think the show, what we learned from this show is that AEW is capable of having emotion in their stories, and that's the best kind of wrestling you can have, whether you do sports-based wrestling or sports entertainment. Doesn't matter. If you have emotion, emotion is powerful, and there was a lot of it on this show. And I don't just mean the Sting stuff at the end. There's more than just that. The whole show had emotion from top to bottom, and that's important. And I'm gonna actually go through all of that in this video and explain to you kind of the different aspects of why the show was so emotional and so powerful. You know what I mean? And that's good. And also it showed that this pay-per-view, including the pre-show, was 11 matches, 9 if you don't include the pre-show. And a lot of AEW shows in the past have been too bloated. You see some of these pay-per-views with like 14 matches and then 2 pre-show matches. And like Tony Khan used to overbook these things. But this show, maybe the lack of MJF and those other guys I mentioned, maybe that helps. Maybe that actually makes the show a bit easier to watch because there's less matches. And granted, they could have used their time maybe a little bit better. You can critique the show in the sense of, you know, maybe some of the matches went a little bit too long. You know, there's obviously room you can say that for, but the show didn't really feel too long, and that's good. Like that, I remember watching, for example, when I watched Full Gear. Full Gear felt long. That was a long pay-per-view. This one did not. So what made this show such a strong show was the trifecta at the end of the show, the triple main event. Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita, right, had your New Japan Dave Meltzer 7-star match. You know, every AEW pay-per-view has to have at least one of these like hyper athletic, you know, New Japan style matches. Like you have to have them. And now that you have now you have Will Ospreay in the company as a contracted guy, that's what he's there for. So him and Takeshita, they had a 22-minute match that was completely insane. My God, is Will Ospreay one of them. And I've been saying this for years, folks. That is one of the most talented people who has ever come along in wrestling in history. I'm talking about like ever. This man is so naturally gifted with everything he does. You know, all those things people said about Kenny Omega in 2017, 2018 is what I was saying about Will Ospreay. Obviously, Will Ospreay's younger, so he'll have a few more years left of him doing this type of stuff. And Kenny Omega, I think, should start slowing down. I mean, you know, these injuries are going to start to pile up as he gets older. He was not on this show, and it would have been great if he was. But, man, Will Ospreay and Takeshita, and technically the match was heel versus heel, even though Will Ospreay is clearly the babyface and turning babyface. But at the end of the match, Don Callis came out, and basically they both shook hands. So it was a very babyface thing to do, but I liked it because it was very realistic and very, like, sports-like. You know, they're both in the ring. They give each other props. They shake hands. A heel can do that. You know, I know people have these rules sometimes where a heel should never be honorable and a babyface should never be dishonorable, but you can do it sometimes. And we'll talk more about that as we go on with the three-way, but you can do it sometimes to have it work, and I think it worked here. I think blurring the lines sometimes is detrimental to telling the story, but it can be done well. I thought it was done well here. Will Ospreay and Takeshita, go out of your way to see that. Actually, go out of your way to see the whole show, really the last 3 matches. I mean, my God. So, as if that wasn't enough, then we had the 20-minute three-way. Samoa Joe in a triple threat defending the AEW World Title against Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, who are both in the middle of like a double turn, and the double turn continued even more so in this match. Like the double turn a few weeks ago, and then what Hangman did on Wednesday, that's all building to the character. I think in this match is when everything was fully finalized, because what was different about this match is not only was Hangman a complete chicken shit heel, beating up referees and doing every slimy trick in the book to win the title, which I loved, by the way. I loved this. This was really well done. Enjoyed it. But Swerve Strickland, was offered to use a weapon and threw it away. Total babyface move, bro. This guy's going to be a massive babyface star. And I haven't seen Hangman Page as a heel since, like, what, Ring of Honor? Like, when he was feuding with Jay Briscoe all those years ago. That's the last time I remember him being a heel like this. Except I actually like this version more. Like, I don't know if it's the Magnum TA face, but I do like this version of Hangman as and Hangman's a great babyface promo. And then you got Samoa Joe, who can be anything. These guys, oh my God, what a great match. What really made this match amazing is the same thing that made the Ospreay match amazing and the main event, even though all three matches were different. The near falls. At least in this match, this Samoa Joe Hangman Strickland match, they got me 3 different times. No, 2 different times, I'm sorry. In the main event, the tag match, they got me 3 different times. They completely swerved me, no pun intended. Because there were a few times where I thought it was going to be the finish. And I loved, the finish of this match was brilliant. Brilliant. So Samoa Joe's got, they do a lot of near falls. Joe's got Hangman in the choke, and Hangman submits, not just because of the pain he was feeling in the choke about to tap out, but just to stop Strickland from winning the title. I love it. I love Hangman Page being so damn narcissistic and petty when it comes to like Strickland. And that's going to turn into one of the all-time great feuds, because they've already had 2 phenomenal one-on-one matches. And now that Swerve is a babyface and Hangman's a heel, I feel like now they can reignite the feud. And they can, and maybe do a cage match. I mean, whatever else they want to dig up. Bull rope match. Whatever they want to do, right, to keep the feud going. Now with Swerve being a face and Hangman being a heel, it kind of breathes new life into it, And I say you do that and let Joe do something else. They did announce on this show officially that AEW does have a new pay-per-view starting in April. Remember, they're going to eventually go to 12 pay-per-views a year. But the show's called Dynasty. It's going to be in St. Louis in April. So right now we're going to have AEW pay-per-views, as far as I can see, in April, in May, June, August, September, October, November, and December. And they're probably going to add one in July at some point, and maybe January too. I mean, we're going to get to 12 a year. It's just a matter of time. They're doing it slowly. But, man, I got to tell you, this Samoa Joe Hangman Swerve 3-way, that's one of the best triple threats I've seen in a long time. I can't even remember a 3-way, like a recent one that was that good. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this 3-way, I think, was up there with the infamous Unbreakable 3-way with Joe, Daniels, and AJ Styles. I think it's on the par with that. I think it's even on par with the WrestleMania 23-way Benoit, Michaels, and Triple H. Another phenomenal 3-way, and the rematch at Backlash. Those are some of the best triple threat matches ever, and I think this one's right up there. I'm not saying it's better than those matches, but it's in the same league. Yes, it really was that good. And it was good not because of the moves or any of that crap. It's because of the character work. The character work is really the way it stood out. In the Takeshita Ospreay match, both were strong characters, but it was the competitive sports atmosphere that made that work. For this one, it was the characters and the history. Like, if you don't know the history of these characters, you're not going to fully understand what's going on. You'll get some of it. You might not have full context. Same thing goes for the main event. Sting and Darby Allin against the Young Bucks. I thought for sure the Bucks were going to win this match because it was Sting's last match. And I thought for sure that they would win and it would be like this nice moment and then the Bucks get the titles. But no, that's not what's happening. In fact, I thought the Bucks were going to feud with the Blackpool Club again after this, but that's not what's happening because they didn't win. So before we get to the match, this was a really great tribute for Sting. I mean, this was a wonderful way. I'm going to give AEW and Tony Khan credit because I'm very fair with the way that I do things. I can criticize AEW. I can also love AEW. And this is one of the times that I loved AEW because credit to Tony Khan for giving Sting so much respect. Not only did he have, I don't know whose idea it was, but they had the sons. Sting's two sons come out dressed like the, early 90s blonde surfer Sting. One son was, and the other son was the NWO Wolfpack Sting, with the black and red makeup, and then regular Sting came out. They did this whole video package, like showing highlights of Sting's career in like New Japan. Obviously, they don't have any WCW footage or WWE footage. In the package, they completely ignored Sting's TNA and WWE run. Completely, it just went from WCW to AEW, and I thought that was funny. And then Sting's in a movie theater, and he's watching like This Is Your Life type of thing, his career. And then, it's one last time. So this match was crazy, and this match, a lot of folks years ago criticized the Young Bucks for having no psychology and not knowing how to work and having all their stuff be just moves. But this match shows that they've improved so much since those early days, since the Generation Me days, because there was emotion here. They knew right when to capture the crowd, they had the crowd hooked. They had the crowd hooked, and that's not easy to do. People were into this match in Greensboro, man. They brought out Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. They actually showed some more guys from the NWA, like in the Mid-Atlantic Crockett promotion. They were all there. Actually, I think David Crockett was there too on the pre-show. We'll go talk more about that in a minute because I am going to go back and talk about the other matches. Just want to get this out of the way. So, just a wonderful thing for Sting. Tony Khan, AEW, paid for Seek and Destroy by Metallica, which was Sting's theme song in the latter part of his career in WCW, the last year or so. And that shocked me. That actually shocked me because Seek and Destroy, and a lot of Metallica, licensing it is not cheap, but it's also cool. It was a very cool thing. And Sting, for sure, came out like a bigger star by coming out to Seek and Destroy. So the match was crazy. I mean, they had Darby running around, jumping around everywhere. They had a spot where both Darby and Sting came off the stage with like a suplex and a Falcon Arrow. Sting taking a suplex from the stage through two tables, even though they were visibly padded, was still crazy. Darby Allin did a spot that took him out of what I thought was the rest of the match until the very end. It wasn't the rest of the match, but it was close. Where he set up this giant ladder, like this big, super tall ladder, and he set up these like 6 chairs sort of facing each other with a big piece of glass in the middle. And I guess he was going to put one of the Young Bucks through it, and instead the Buck moved out of the way. I don't remember which one. And then Darby went through it. And this was one of the scariest, like, I don't know if Darby really does have a death wish, bro, but every pay-per-view I talk about how this guy is, like, inching his way closer to, like, paralysis. You understand what I'm saying? And this dude was bleeding. His back was sliced up. I guess that's real glass. Cry me a river. Back was all sliced up. And, dude, it's like I feel like telling this guy, you don't have to do all this, man. Even no matter how much you love Sting, you don't have to do this. You really don't. So they had a spot in the match where Rick Steamboat and the Young Bucks brawl, and then Ric Flair gets in the ring to protect Sting. Then the Young Bucks, being the dastardly heels that they are, double super kick Ric Flair, which got a pop with the people I was watching it with. And it was meant to get cheap heat, but it's whatever. So what was happening was Sting. So Darby Allin flies back in. They're about to hit the. They hit him with 2 EVP triggers, and Sting still kicks out. So they're doing the thing where Sting's final match is gonna go down like a warrior, and I'm loving it. I'm loving all this because yeah, if he goes down, he goes down like a warrior. So then they're about to set him up for the TK driver, which used to be called the Meltzer driver. But then Darby Allin launched himself back in and pushed Nick through off the top through a table on the outside. Again, very dangerous spot. Sting hit the Scorpion Death drop on Matt Jackson. 2 count. Then Darby Allin came off the top with the coffin drop, and then another Scorpion Death lock, and then he tapped out. Sting won the match. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. At the same time, part of me, like, they had this big celebration. There was confetti. There was a little bit of talking near the end, but part of me was, I was mixed. Like, I was not mixed. I love this. Okay, I love this. I was surprised that Sting and Darby didn't lose. Sting had been undefeated in AEW since joining. And I thought they were going to hold off on that until the very end, have them lose to the Young Bucks. You know, in a good way, like the way they did it here. You know, they actually had a spot where I thought they were going to do, I'm sorry, I love you. But instead they said, I'm sorry, we're sorry, we hate you. And that was very clever. But no, you would think that Sting would lose. It's his last night, right? But no, Darby and Sting win. And I guess they're going to forfeit the titles because Sting is retired now. Darby and Sting win in a surprising finish, but a very honorable way to put over a legend on the way out, man. A very honorable way to do that. Like, seriously, that was something that I was not expecting. I know it was still going to be honorable even if Sting, like, lost. I don't think they would have messed that part up, but it was actually even more special. There was confetti flying. Darby thanked Sting. Sting thanked Darby. Sting talked about how back in like 88, you know, the Clash, him and Ric Flair went 45 minutes and how that was in Greensboro and now his career closes in Greensboro. But unfortunately, the show goes off the air before he can finish his farewell. So maybe, I'm sure it'll be up on social media. I'm sure AEW will put it up, and I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I would assume they're going to show it on Dynamite this week, which, by the way, apparently Will Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher is a match on Dynamite. So Ospreay wrestling against all of Callis' men, to me, is obviously being set up for something more down the road. Now, as far as the rest of the show goes, it was great. I even saw the pre-show. So the Bang Bang Scissor Gang against Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, Willie Mack, Private Party. Remember when Jay Lethal kept losing in the Continental Classic and everybody was like, oh, that's a story, I'm sure they'll follow it up? No follow-up. But the 12-man tag, it was whatever. A lot of it was played up for laughs. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was fine for what it was. Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale versus Julia Hart, Sky Blue. That was on the pre-show. First of all, the presentation of Julia Hart is fantastic. The production, the lighting, the red lighting, the way she's dressed, the music. It's awesome. It's one of the best presentations that AEW has. Really, really good stuff. Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia for the AEW TNT title. I liked the match. It was a good opener. I was surprised there was no Adam Copeland at all, like not even an appearance here. That kind of surprised me considering that I thought they were holding off on the Christian Edge match for either this show or another one, not when they signed the Garcia match. I don't know if Edge got hurt or not, but what happened basically was there was interference, of course. Killswitch, Nick Wayne, Mother Wayne, and at one point Daddy Magic came out to help Garcia. There was a lot of near falls, and then it ended with like some reversals Nick Wayne kind of flew in with this flying cutter, and then Christian pins Daniel Garcia. It was a good match. It was also a match that I think could have benefited from having a couple minutes of it cut. Shred it down a little bit. I didn't think it had to be 18 and a half minutes, but it was, and it was fine. Now, a match that should not have gotten any time cut, it was almost 20 minutes, was Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. I've been enjoying this feud, and this match was great. The story here goes all the way back to the Indies when Bryan was one of the hottest guys in the Indies, and Eddie Kingston was on his way up, and he just wanted to earn Bryan's respect. That's what he's always wanted. This is for the Continental Crown. Eddie, of course, won the Continental Classic in the last pay-per-view back in December at World's End. But, man, this match, you know, when I got done watching this match, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, I'm like, there's no way this can be topped. And then we had the last three matches, and it's like, oh, my God. I was kind of surprised they put this match on so early. It was the second match of the pay-per-view. Seems really early to do this, but dude, this match, these guys beat the bejesus out of each other. This was an all-Japan match, basically. I mean, you had your hard kicks, you had your hard chops, forearms, suplexes, neck drop moves. That's what this match was. It was a lot of the spots and a lot of the storytelling was taken right from All Japan 90s. We know how much Eddie Kingston is a mark for that. And, you know, if you remember, Jun Nakayama wrestled Bryan Danielson recently. But the Eddie Kingston victory was actually a power bomb. It was a Kawada style power bomb. He beat him with the power bomb and then leaned over him like Kawada used to do. And then there was actually a... So after the match, Bryan kept like kind of, I don't know if he was fucking with him or what, but he finally shook his hand, showed him the respect. There was a backstage thing that was shot. It was on Twitter. It was on social media. Of like Eddie telling Bryan, you know, all I wanted was respect, and then Bryan putting him over. That segment, that 3-minute segment, needs to air on Dynamite this week. Like it needs to. That 3-minute segment did more for Eddie Kingston's character and Bryan Danielson's character as far as developing them than any wrestling match could outside of the one they just got done having. You understand what I'm saying? Whatever they have planned for Dynamite this week as far as matches go, and we know a couple already, but I'm saying do not take up just all the time with matches. This segment needs to be shown to the people. I think it's important for the character of Eddie Kingston and the man, and for Bryan Danielson, because this is the kind of character stuff that I like. Really, really good stuff. Then we had a match that confused me. It was supposed to be this big, like, meat match, but it got changed even though it didn't. This was an all-star scramble. It was 8 guys. The winner gets a shot at the AEW title. Wardlow won. He beat Powerhouse Hobbs, Jericho, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus. Not Nick Aldis Magnus, obviously. The Mexican CMLL guy, Magnus. And Dante Martin. This match was weird. Like, people... Okay, I enjoyed seeing it, but it was a train wreck. The rules were weird. I didn't quite understand them until, a few minutes in. I wasn't sure if it was like a battle royal or just a pinfall thing. And it was a one-fall thing. They eliminated all of the smaller guys, and the big guys started doing these big beef spots, and that was fun. Everybody got their offense, and everybody got their moves in. Including Hook doing some great stuff. But it was a train wreck, but I had fun with it. It was messy. There were some parts of it that were very messy, but I had fun with it. Wardlow won, which means we're gonna get Wardlow and Samoa Joe at some point, and I feel like that makes sense only because we already heard the Adam Cole promo right after at World's End when he was saying that Wardlow's going after the world title. So there you go. Now, speaking of Adam Cole, his group, Roderick Strong won the AEW International title from Orange Cassidy. I have not been a big fan of Orange Cassidy as a character for a while, but this match is what he needed. It reminds me of the Moxley match. Roderick went in there to kill this guy, and that's what he did. Hard chops, hard side kicks, several different backbreakers. The story, of course, being that Orange, like his first title reign, is stretching himself too thin. He's injured. His back is bad. All that stuff, man. That was the story of the match. And Roderick won. He won the title, and that was cool because I think I would rather he be champion right now than Orange Cassidy. And then Kyle O'Reilly came into the ring, who looks like he hasn't slept in about 10 years. I can relate. And Kyle O'Reilly, like, shakes everybody's hand. He hugs them. And then Matt Bennett gives him an Undisputed Kingdom shirt, but O'Reilly doesn't put it on. And then says something to Strong and leaves. So what's that? So that's going to be the story going forward about Kyle O'Reilly and where he fits in with the Undisputed Kingdom and whether or not he's going to be an ally or an enemy to Adam Cole. Throughout his career, he's been both. Literally, they had a crazy feud in ROH. They had a crazy feud in NXT in 2021. And they might have another one in AEW at some point, but they've also been allies. A lot of history with those two. Jon Moxley and Claudio against FTR. The build-up for this match was it felt very last minute. The match itself was good. And it actually kind of surprised me that FTR lost in Greensboro. That kind of surprised me. But these guys, they went at it. The cardio in this match, the fact that everything was executed so smoothly, as FTR tends to do, the double team moves, everything made sense. I mean, it was great. It was a phenomenal match. And then the only other match on the show, which I kind of felt bad for because they really tried hard, but the crowd was just not into it, whether it be the story or they were tired from the tag match. But Deonna Purrazzo versus Timeless Toni Storm for the AEW Women's title. Toni Storm retained. That match did not have a lot of heat. I think part of the reason could be because the unfortunate truth, and we knew this back just a couple months ago, is that Mercedes Moné is is completely overshadowing Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna Purrazzo obviously had a hell of a run in Impact and has respect and is a respected women's wrestler, right? Nothing against her, but she's so overshadowed by Sasha Banks coming in. Like, this match, I knew before it started, I said Toni Storm's going to win and Deonna Purrazzo's going to Rampage. Like, unfortunately, she's going to end up like what happened with Ruby Soho, where you see them maybe once a month in a match and then you don't see them. They're not really used. I see that happening to Deonna Purrazzo now because of the fact that we have Mercedes coming in. Mercedes just overshadows her completely in star power and is a great worker. And I do feel bad. I felt bad for both these ladies, man, because they're out there. They really were trying. And the match was fine. The moves were fine. Like, I enjoyed the match. I really did. There was no match on this show that I felt was a bad match. Not a single one. And this one, too, it's just that the people either didn't care or they knew that Toni Storm was going to win because the Toni Storm-Sasha Banks match is bigger. Mercedes match is bigger than this one. But it just shows that, like, Deonna Purrazzo, yeah, she's a star, but she's not on the level of Moné, which is true. I mean, it's she's not there yet. Maybe if she has a run in WWE or maybe if she has some matches with Mercedes at some point, she could elevate herself, but I just felt bad for her. Like, it sucks because they really, really, really tried. But Toni Storm wins. And then, I already mentioned the first three matches. So, yeah, this was a really good show. It wasn't over-bloated like a lot of other AEW shows. And no Kenny Omega, no Adam Cole, no MJF. But the show still was good. The show still delivered. And I think AEW is going to be okay. It's just, I've criticized the booking. The booking is, I think, still the worst part about the company. But the talent will always pick up the slack on the pay-per-views and make those memorable. At least your pay-per-views are going to be good. and this one was. But I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The way that Tony Khan and AEW booked Sting's final match, the build-up had some flaws in it, but it was great execution by the end. And great show. And that's my thoughts for Revolution 2024. What did you think? Let me know. Take care. See you soon.